Good morning once again. My name is Earnie Poundmaker, and I originally from the Cree tribe in northern Saskatchewan. However, I've been residing here in Calgary now for 47 years, and I still work part-time with the Aboriginal Friendship Centre of Calgary, and I still do work in the community as well in the area of language retention, as well as I do a lot of cultural and spiritual programming as well for the city and different agencies, different groups in the city. So I'm happy to be here with you again. Before I start, I'd like to extend a prayer. And my prayer usually begins with giving thanks for this life, giving thanks for this day, and send out a prayer to all people, especially those that are disadvantaged. And I speak for the homeless and those ones battling addictions as well. And so my prayer is the same. Every day when I sit down to do this in the morning, my prayer always goes out to those people. And so I extend a prayer today for all people again. And I'm going to pray in my language, and I'm going to ask you to pray in your language as well. And so I'll start by saying, Nanaskumon mamo no tauima. Asami na pega emiwa patama kutakiskau. Kinanaskumtnan. Kape miuna guhtain gakyogi goya samina no skagiskak. Hami nagpega kistama samina pe mamsirutatnan mamo no tauima. Aktimagistat, aktimaginat. Inta simsnan, no simsnan no skagiskaga samina. Hami nan pikskwestamanan, no aquamagannan. Kagwatagistata no skagiskak. Pikskwestamanan matesa gamiumskam gamiasni guista. Gamiumskam miumam tenetsigeon. Piatageimon mina. Soem nagatem mina nagawisakte heta no skagiskak. Pikskwestamanan. Kayakasiniu matesa. Ute umam tenetsigan. Anoskagiskag. Witsga pusto. Tamaginaw tamagitaw no ako maganak siugamgo kapmsik anoskagiskag. Amatesa. Kamiwayaw kamiw pasigo asamina pego. Ha tamagitaw mina. Gete ay sim. Nitswapstuan anoskagiskag matesa gamiasinio. Agtamagnat, agtamagihtaat wista. Ha matesa magigway pe mastajiho, pe wanaiko. Soem nagatemina, nswem na naganoskagiskag. Kanagatukatatsik, kanagatematsak wista. Soemik nagatemik kakyo. Ha mina, matigiamo tegamiasin, kakyo gigway. Aga miusapos tuhtanan me guacho maimano kanipauya kawisak tehea kakyo. Amate, pewichinat, pewichkapo ustonat, pesitoskonan gues matesa, kakyo anoskagiskak. Aeksiniste spaksemoyan, matigiam gamiasan, tamaginaunan, nagatemnan kakyo. Hai, internaskumten. Oh. So we continue to pray in light of all things that we face as First Nations people, wherever we are in this country. Our prayer and our sacrifices and our ceremonies have sustained us through some very troubling and challenging times, as witnessed by what came forward here a few short weeks ago with the discovery of these young bodies that were unearthed in Kamloops. As First Nations people, we always were aware of what happened in those institutions. Our people still speak of those things, those horrors, being torn apart from their parents and their grandparents and their community. And my mother-in-law always spoke of this as well, witnessing that. It was very painful to hear. But now that pain has been brought to another level with the discovery of these bodies. And I feel for Indigenous people all across this country, because I think in one way or another we were all affected by the residential schools, the legacy of the residential schools. And I can only think from the perspective of being a grandfather and a father and an uncle, how it must feel to send your children off to be educated and to never see them again. And no explanation was given to you. How it must feel for people to not have any closure as to the whereabouts of their siblings, to never see them again, to have them not come home. They were put in the hands of people that claimed to be messengers of God and a good way to live. And to find that much of the horrors were perpetrated by these same people on young, innocent, harmless children. And the effects of those are still being felt today by survivors and those descendants of those survivors that still grapple with addictions and pain and the legacy that was left behind by the churches, because it destroyed many people. And all you have to do is look at our federal institutions, our correctional institutions that house a large part of our Indigenous community. We comprise a large percentage of the inmate population. And you look at the condition of our people that live on the street, the homeless population. You have to look at where that pain and suffering came from. Our people forgot their parenting skills because our traditional parenting skills were stripped from us when we entered into these residential schools. Our language was lost. What does that do to an adult today that walks with brown skin but can't speak his language? What does that do to him? What does that do to his self-worth, his self-esteem? So you look at all these things, and how do we reconcile that? How do we get over that pain and start looking at something good, something positive? How do you do that? And it's difficult. And so what we do as an Indigenous community is to bring back those ceremonies, start empowering people again. And how you do that is to build a strong foundation, that what we have as the First Nations is good, that our teachings are good, because they teach us how to live in this world. But it also reminds us of the value system that we have, what was taught to us, what was handed down to us, and what is reinforced by our ceremonies, those things that relate to kindness and sharing and caring and showing compassion to one another, to all people. And it's hard to reconcile that and come to grips with it and to move forward without anger and to a large degree shame. And so we have to continue to speak about our reality, tell our story about what happened to our parents and our grandparents as survivors of these institutions, these residential schools. We must continue to let the world know what happened to us. Canada was once a bastion of goodness, they say. How Canada was one of the best countries in the world to live. But all that has been totally blown out of the water, because I think this country lost face on the world stage. And we rank up there now with a lot of these third world countries that suffered genocide. But like I say, we can continue to walk with anger. But when we do that, nothing changes. We just create more anger. Or else we can begin educating the society about us, about our history, what happened to us. And we can do that by telling our stories. Forgiveness is a hard place to be, especially given our history. But we have to remember the teachings of our Creator, our grandfathers and our grandmothers, that teach us that we have to walk in a good way. When we see the wrongs of society, we see the wrongs of the citizens that mistreat Indigenous and other minorities in this country. We just have to show them something better. Show them something better. And the way we do that is through our prayers. The grandfathers, the grandmothers, and our Creator know what is needed in this world, what is needed in our world, our own personal lives. And so if we continue to walk in a good way, continue to pray for all mankind, eventually the grandfathers, the grandmothers, and the Creator are going to see fit for that understanding and that compassion and that humanity to come back to us as mankind. And we have to keep modeling a sense of that goodness, a sense of kindness, a sense of respect. And through that, we can bring about change. We can affect change through our talks, through our sharing. But we must walk it. We must walk that. We must walk the talk as well. Talking is only half of it. The action is what carries it forth and brings it about and makes it happen. So I applaud St. Andrew's Presbyterian. I've had the pleasure of working with St. Andrew's in our cultural sharing day. And I've shared many of my thoughts with the church as well. And I hope to continue to do that. And I want to commend you because you're the first organized church group that has stepped forward to allow us to do this here, to allow us to be a part of your worship ceremony. And I want to thank you and keep praying for all of us. Pray for all of mankind. Because I look at that medicine wheel. It's got 4 colors in there: black, red, yellow, and white. That represents the 4 races of mankind that were placed here. And we all belong in a circle. That represents the family of man. Let's get back to that now. Let's start showing our humanity. We're better than this. We're better than this. Let's show the world now that we can come together and make things good again. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share this message with you. And I hope it's received in a good way, in a kind way, in a respectful way. I want to thank you once again. My English name is Earnie Poundmaker. My Indian name is Mahtau Spagan, strong pipe. Aho, thank you. Kinernaskum na. Ay.